Okay, Tom, how's it going?
Yeah, really good, thank you. How about you? How was Thanksgiving?
It was. I gave thanks. I gave thanks for 400 years ago. Some settler colonizers, were hungry, and so managed to get some apparently turkey and food off the native population. Then proceeded to murder them for the next 400 years.
Oh, nice.
Things to be thankful for.
Lovely. And have you seen Killers of the Flower Moon? It's a
I
good
have
reminder
not
at this time of
actually. Is
year.
it good?
It is good, obviously based on the book, but yeah, that is just a horrendous story of how, yeah, the native population still, well, it was about 100 years ago, but still,
Yeah.
it's a timely reminder this time of year.
Well, you only need to take a look at the map of the US over the years, and obviously it wasn't really constituted as a country for quite a few hundred years after Western travellers arrived. But look at the native tribes and just how shrunk they get into small parts of the country, especially in these parts of the world. I mean, if you're reminded every day in the names of the places of the different tribes that have been wiped out. So there you go, good stuff.
Yeah, lovely start.
Yeah, it's just so we don't have to talk about football, isn't it? Because you
Yeah,
know
that's
what,
true.
the international break, everyone moans about it, but you can actually find some good football on if you're willing to be creative and not just watch England versus Malta or whatever. And there were a few good games on. But the other thing it reminded me of is that we didn't have to think about United. And this season, that's been quite good to have that respite, hasn't it?
Yeah, I know. The only reminders, I guess, when our players are playing or not playing. McTominay popped up again, didn't he? Oh, did he pop up with another goal?
I think he
he
scored,
did.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, like you said, there's some good games like Ukraine, Italy. Had
Absolutely
its
robbed the Ukrainians.
fair
Robbed.
share of controversy. The day after Sheffield said that Italy missing out on the Euros would be a disaster, and then Ukraine miss out on a penalty in the last minute to, send it, which would have sent Italy to the playoff. But there's some good games. Kazakhstan get into the playoffs as well, which is pretty fun. They have a player that United have been linked to as well. Actually, United have been linked to one of their centre backs. I think he looks like a bit of a beast. Yeah, 23-year-old.
Yeah, no, there's some good stories there, and then we get the playoff situation. I guess I can't remember how many teams are in the play. Is it 8? No.
Yeah, I think there's
Something.
12.
12, is it? Because it's
I think so.
part of it's to do with the Nations League. And
Yeah,
part of it's to do with it's really complicated. So
it is a complicated system.
anyway,
And
there
at one
there was
point,
some
it
good
looked
stuff
like Ireland needed to lose to Holland to give them a better chance of getting into the playoffs. But thankfully, that situation didn't actually come around again. That's how complicated and ridiculous that system is.
Yeah. You shouldn't need a PhD in mathematics to work out who qualifies for a tournament. No. There you go.
No.
I'm sounding all boomery now, but yeah, it is odd being multiple tracks. England, of course, qualified. They'd already qualified. It's all rather easy in the end. I watched some of it. There was a ridiculous penalty for one of those handballs where, if that's not a natural action, like jumping, and it just happens to hit you. Yeah, anyway, Example 940 something of why VAR is an awful waste of time, and the handball rule is ridiculous. Yeah. As for United, we did have some football because the women's team played a couple of times since we last spoke. Lost to Manchester City and were totally outclassed. Weren't ever really in that game. Don't know whether you saw that one, but they just couldn't get a foothold in the game at all.
Yeah, it was. It's obviously we started really well, but yeah, it after last season's the way that we were almost relentless in our charge towards the title, this game felt like a little bit of a step back, really, and maybe for City a step forward because we were a better side than City last season, and then this season you see that performance and result, and you think, this feels like a United from like 3 or 4 years ago, really, when we were kind of the up and coming thing, and we'd go to the bigger teams in the league and get kind of outclassed and like soundly beaten. And like you say, we kind of just did look a step off them and a level below, which was a shame, really, obviously.
Yeah, Skinner seems to be moving the players around a lot, like, and not really rotation, but it feels like he doesn't know exactly what his best team is yet. And some of the new players, it's kind of mixed bag of, Gazer is like obviously really talented, but seems a bit inconsistent. Mallard has scored a few goals. Mizawa doesn't seem to be getting in the team. There's, not all sort of sailed in and been successful yet, and already dropped quite a few points. So 3 draws, that defeat. Was there another defeat as well? I'm forgetting now. Also lose to Chelsea. So it's like already in a short. Basically, they only played 22 games, so already feels like too many points dropped. Yeah.
It does, and it's completely understandable because we've signed so many players, and we're trying to create a new system and a new style of play to fit all these different players in. And there's a lot of talent in there, like you say, maybe not the most consistency, but there's definitely an abundance of talent. But yeah, in a 22 season league, you can't afford to have 5, 6, 7 games to settle into. You really need to win from the start, because you know how good someone like Chelsea are, and then Chelsea, they battered Paris FC last night, didn't they? And I think Sam Kerr scored 2, and Paris FC beat Arsenal in qualification. That Chelsea are always going to be a step above, even without Emma Hayes. Maybe that gap will narrow now she leaves, but yeah, the other 2 as well, City and Arsenal, are both very, very good. And like I say, you can't have 6 or 7 games to settle into, because you just get cast adrift, and unfortunately that is already going to happen. Like 3 draws and a loss is probably almost about what Chelsea will end up with at the end of the season, to be honest. It won't be that far off, and we'll be probably 4th or 5th. Well, probably 4th,
yeah. So United then went on to beat Liverpool in the, is this still called the Conti Cup? The League Cup, anyway. It's in a group situation before they get into the knockouts. And then play Bristol City this weekend. So, yes. Which should be a gimme. But,
I don't know.
All right, moving on then. On the ownership situation, we didn't get an announcement. By the way, happy anniversary, strategic review, 1 year old, a couple of days ago. Did you celebrate?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, with all my family around, and we had a big sing song for Big Jim.
Lovely,
Big Sir Jim, actually. Sorry,
it's big Sir Jim. Is that what we're going to call him? Yeah,
I think so.
Big Jim energy. I thought we might get an announcement of some kind, but I guess it's in keeping with the Glazers that it's slow, delayed, indecisive, incompetent. Pick your adjective. All of them. They will leave as they arrived.
Yeah.
And they're not even leaving yet.
No.
So it's enough that's leaked out that it seems to be just a dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's on the contract, which is going to specify who has control over what. And it's a new arrangement where, like, if reports are true, Ratcliffe is going to be buying 25% of the club. Looks like it's going to be equally weighted between shares from the Glazer family and public shares, which is what some of the public investors wanted, to make sure that they got the same price at 33 and a bit dollars per share, which is quite a large premium over the market. So that we all know, and I guess the thing they're sorting out is exactly what this new management structure looks like. So, and we actually, I don't know, we didn't actually talk about Arnold yet, did we?
No.
So Ratcliffe cleaning house, I think it's needed from some of the things I was chatting about with some people. So someone got in touch. I won't mention names because it's not fair, but to give me the lowdown on some of the stuff they'd heard, and I was like, All right, let me go check this out as well. So dropped a mail to a few people to ask a few questions about just how dysfunctional it is in the club at the moment. Very is the answer, and that's part of the reason Arnold will go, and a few of the other executives too, and there'll be a bit of a cleaning house, which one would expect anyway with new management coming in.
Yeah. I'm surprised Murtaugh's not gone at this point, though. I thought that was going to follow in the following days, to be honest.
It can't be. I mean, he's there was a piece in The Athletic about him a couple of weeks ago, how he's sort of well liked and respected around the club, but I mean, from the outside, doesn't seem like he's done much of a job. And there's quite a bit of chat about him not really being very active at the club at the moment. So I suspect that the Ineos group are going to bring their own people in there.
Yeah,
you'd expect it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, even at clubs where a guy has been succeeding, like you think of, I don't know, it's a bit different, but Birmingham, where like John Eustace was actually doing a pretty good job, like they still got rid of him because they wanted their own guy, and I can't see why Ineos Group would look at Murtaugh's resume and the experience that he's had at Man United and go, oh, this is the man we want to keep, because he's had such a great track record of, I don't know, one of his first decisions was to bring in what's his name, Ranić, and to follow on from Ollie.
Didn't it?
Yeah, and and then he'll point out loads of deficiencies of the squad, and then we'll just bin him off because it went so disastrously wrong, and then the scouting system's still not improved, the recruitment is still not improved, and I mean, we've spoken about it millions of times before, it's not a very well-run football club. So
no, it's totally chaotic, and if you're going to take over football operations, whatever that really means, and then you bring in the people you think are going to do the great job, and Murtaugh seems to me to be the embodiment of the Peter principle. He just kept getting promoted until he got to the point where he was incompetent, and there's really nothing he's done in his couple of years at the club that would suggest otherwise from the outside, despite what people on the inside might say about them liking him and him having a power base. You don't have a power base when you're fired, which is, I suspect, what's going to happen. But it was a shame we didn't get an announcement. It would have been a nice bookend to what has been a pretty painful year of bickering between the fans and gossiping outside to let us know what's going on. But soon-ish, I suspect.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, there was a story, I think, in The Sun, which will give you a sense of the credibility of it. This is The Sun, by the way, who told us that in October the £6 billion takeover would be completed by the Qataris. Seemed to get that one right, did you, Neil? Anyway, it's saying that United could be banned from Europe because of the provisions around multi-club ownership in the UEFA rules, which were only sometimes applied. So OGC Nice are doing really well this season. I think they're second in Ligue 1, aren't they? Or they were top for a while, but Paris Saint-Germain are playing tonight. And so they're doing really well and on course to qualify for the Champions League. And should United also qualify for the Champions League, then in theory, only one of them would be allowed in the competition. It would be the highest ranked club in the coefficient. That said, the Red Bull clubs have played each other, and I think it's been widely pointed out.
Exactly.
And all they had to show was different management in order to show that there's some kind of firewall. And I just think it's very easy to do with, if you've got Ineos and a massive group of companies that run Ineos, then it's like it's not the way it's run as a company is kind of federated, so across like 30 odd companies or something. So I don't think it's very hard to show different management.
And it's also like, it's not like Ineos would come into this and go, oh, we didn't think of that. Like we didn't think that was ever going to crop up, that case. Like,
why didn't anyone point this out? Thank you, The Sun, for do this.
It's like
hard-hitting investigative journalism.
Exactly. It's like an article you'd see on like GiveMeSport.com or HITC or whatever. Like, like an article which is just out there for clicks, but they literally put it on their back page, which is like,
Yeah.
like it just shows like the desperate need for attention and clicks that newspaper still clearly, I mean, obviously has, but it's just embarrassing.
United sell papers, drive
Yeah.
clicks. It's number one all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not too worried about that. I think if the Red Bull clubs can show that they are separate functions, then United could. Although there was a kind of settlement, wasn't there? Or a kind of judgment.
Leipzig are
wasn't
called
there?
Rotten Bullen, aren't they? I think.
Right. Yes.
Oh no, is it Racing Bull or something? I don't know. It's
something like that.
Literally got a different name in Europe, and
it's like Red Bull and Toro Rosso, completely different.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is an absolute disgrace in the F1.
Yeah, I think they will manage to separate these things, and it'll be all right. Although Aston Villa and Brighton had to make some arrangements, didn't they? So Tony Bloom had to sell part of his controlling interest in Union Saint-Gilloise. So, hey, you stick it in a family foundation or something, don't you? And it's I definitely don't control this.
Yeah, exactly.
Tony Bloom Foundation Inc. So yes, I'm sure United will sort that one out. The biggest challenge to that whole narrative, of course, is that United are fucking miles off actually qualifying for the Champions League. Although actually it's probably only 6 points, isn't it? But feels like miles off. And certainly if the current form continues all season, we would not qualify anyway. So that would solve that problem.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah. On the football side of things, Ten Hag gave his press conference today. A little bit of news on the injury front, a little bit of discussion about like who's available and what. And the good news is we kind of suspected, because he's been back in training for a while, so Luke Shaw is back.
Yeah, and I think Ten Hag said something along the lines of, it's nice to have a proper left back in the squad or something like that. It's like, that's a bit harsh on Reguilon, but also kind of fair enough, considering what we've seen from him. But yeah, like I know a lot of people on Twitter are thinking that like the return of Luke Shaw is like the return of Jesus Christ or something, like, and it's going to solve all our ills and solve society's ills and Manchester United's ills. But it'd be great to see him back. But we also know that Luke Shaw is a madly inconsistent being, and when he hasn't got much competition beside him, which he won't do, now he's seen that basically no one else can play left back, and even the left back is getting told that he's not really a left back
any good
by the manager, and Amrabat's playing there at times. It's like, I mean, I'm hoping we'll get to see the best Luke Shaw, but it's going to take time. And he's been out for a while as well, hasn't he? So it's going to take a bit of time to get back up to speed.
Back into it.
So like, great news that he's coming back, but how long is it going to take for him to get up back to speed? Hopefully not too long.
We'll see. I'd be really shocked if they throw him straight in. I mean, it's a hard role, like one of the hardest in terms of like the miles you do fullbacks. So throw him straight in. There's a chance he could play left centre back, of course, which Ten Hag likes. If he really wants a left footer there and decides that he's Johnny Evans isn't his man, though he appears to be in the pecking order, ahead of Rafa Varane in the pecking order at the moment.
And Shaw has been ace there, to be fair, like when he has played. But I guess when we've not got a left back, that's not going to happen too quickly. The ideal scenario will be if we're 4-0 up. Can't even. If we're 4-0 up and then we can bring Luke Shaw on, with like 30 minutes to go and just ease him back into it. That's just the ideal, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the amount of non-contact muscle injuries United are getting, and the chat about it's and it got into the actual, because obviously a few people have said it in the kind of United fan media circles that there's some unhappiness with how intense training has been, and I think we all looked at pre-season and thought it was pretty odd in terms of like the schedule and the minutes players got. But then there were some newspaper reports. Obviously, a few player agents have been talking to journalists about the intensity of training and how some of the players felt after pre-season. They were more tired than they'd left the previous season. So, and none of this would surprise me if it turns out to be true, because it's an unusually high number of. It's not like these are all like contact injuries. They're mostly not. They're muscle and hamstring injuries. Like so many of them. And in fact, we're not sure, but reports today that Mason Mount has picked up a calf strain and could be out for a month. Again, and it feels like there's a pattern here.
Yeah. But on the other side, it's not great to see these leaks like going out to the Guardian of like players unhappy and stuff. It's just, it really kind of summarizes and encapsulates what this United team, or the kind of the cliche around the United team of they're like, their mentality's weak, they're crybabies, they're like that type of thing. Like, and it happened all the time, didn't it? It happens all the time when a manager is close to going at United. Like all the leaks come flying out, and it's players are distressed, and there's a fracture in the squad, and these types of stories, and whereas it might be true in this case, like, I hate to see that kind of going out to the press and snitching on the manager kind of thing.
It's, there's something not quite right if the player's doing that. But he might also say, like, either some of them are unhappy, or there's always players unhappy if they're not in the team, of course, and some of them can be more difficult, and maybe they don't all get on as well as they could do. That's a part of the reason why Ten Hag, didn't he had that barbecue at his house to try and get all the players together and try and build some kind of unit. I don't know. There was a magical story before we get onto the weekend game. Harry Maguire, if you remember, he responded to it.
It was so good.
A Ghanaian MP who went viral a few months ago by making fun of Harry Maguire, and stood up in Parliament this week and apologised and said that Harry Maguire turned it around, and like Harry Maguire, the Ghanaian economy could be turned around too. I was like, and Harry was like, apology accepted, see you at Old Trafford. Very nice.
It's so good. It's genius. And I love the way in that clip as well, you can just see like a couple of guys in the background just laughing, like this guy's clearly a card and get him to Old Trafford and maybe I don't know, I was thinking maybe he could replace
maybe
Mertens.
It'd be good luck. We should bring him along.
I think he couldn't do much worse as director of football at this football club, but
well, he has a vision.
He has,
for something.
Exactly.
Yeah. I forget. I was just going to look up his name. I forget now.
Isaac something.
I say Isaac something. Yeah. It's very good. Anyway, I enjoyed that. Harry, he did all right for England. There was one classic Harry moment where he gave the ball away and then got back too slowly and wiped out his man and somehow got away with not giving away a penalty. I was like, that's the Harry we know and love, not the composed Harry we've seen over the last couple of months. So he's definitely he's back to being first choice, isn't he?
Yeah.
And which is such a turnaround. Surprise to everyone, I think, probably including Harry.
Yeah, I watched the second game because I play football on Monday night, and I watched the second half in the pub of the England game. I thought it was really quite interesting, like the amount of people that I heard in the pub just not actually wanting England to win. Like it was like, and it is in like Derby, like in a very kind of working class area, like how unpatriotic and how anti-Southgate a lot of England fans were in that pub, literally watching the game, like not like literally avoiding it, but just kind of, there's a real anti-Southgate, anti-England mentality currently, I think, right now in England, and it's very interesting because in my mind, I think it's maybe he's a bit negative with some of the football he plays, but like I feel that England are going into that next season's summer's competition as maybe second favourites. I really do think they could end up winning it. But yeah, I know I'm not kind of saying the whole of the country's like this, but it was very interesting just to see from that encapsulation in that small survey of people that how anti-England a lot of them are. But I mean,
yeah,
it's a qualifier, and the Malta game on Friday was just horrendous as well. I don't know if you saw that or any of that, but at the first half, England didn't even have a shot against a team who were just awful.
I feel like I turned it off after the first half.
Shocking.
And didn't see the rest of it. But there's something about Southgate, it's just not very inspiring. I think that's the football's pretty insipid. I mean, if you look to where England were, when did he become England manager? 8 years ago, or whatever it was. Yeah, a while ago now. Obviously, at pretty much the lowest ebb in sort of modern living memory. And made a final, made a semi-final, quarter-final, sort of falling narrowly to teams that were better than them each time. But it's just, so that's progress, but it's just that none of the football's very inspiring. And then you look at the squad and you see all these attacking players, and even the quality of player who's not even in the squad, like Raheem Sterling having a good season, can't get in the team, can't get in the squad anymore. It's clearly offended Southgate. He really does take personal offence to this kind of stuff, doesn't he? And you look at that and you go, well, they should really be able to craft that into a really attacking side. I know that's not really how international football is. It's slower and less dynamic in some way, but it feels like it should be able to produce more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I think also he's hampered by the fact that, like you say, international football is slower and it's nowhere near as exciting as what people will watch on a weekly basis with the Premier League, which is by far the best league in the world these days. And it's so good, it's so exciting, it's so fast. And you're looking at teams like City and Liverpool with Klopp and Guardiola, two of the best coaches in the world, and you're seeing how a lot of English players are involved in those teams and the way that they play football. And people are watching, this drab England football every every month or so. And they're like, why can't these guys do exactly what they're doing on a Saturday, every Saturday and Sunday for the national team? And I kind of do get that, but I still find it a little bit perplexing, like how anti-England a lot of people have become. And it started at the World Cup, really. Like, a lot of people were really down on them before it started, and I wonder if it will change before the next summer. But I think Southgate's, this is a real tangent, but I think Southgate's probably in trouble.
End of a cycle, though. I'm sure he'll go after the Euros.
It seems like it.
So, and who knows who'll be after that. So
Lee Carsley, I think,
it
was
won't
one
be.
of the favourites.
Probably won't be Sean Dyche, will it? Who's got a job to do at Everton. Sorry for the leftwards segue there, but Everton now on 4 points after their 10-point deduction. I saw a lot of bleating from Everton fans, and even Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, but an Everton fan, complaining about it. And maybe it's just me, I was like, it amounts to 3 wins and a draw is the penalty for like the best part of £500 million of losses, not just spent, of losses over the last 5 years. They claimed more losses from COVID on matchday income than United. How's that possible? They make almost no money out of Goodison Park. None of it made sense at the time. Everyone was looking, even the Premier League didn't believe them, because they were basically on this system where they had to report into the Premier League constantly, not just give their 3-year cycle of accounting. They had to constantly report to the Premier League because the Premier League didn't believe that they were going to meet their FFP obligation, or profit and sustainability obligation. So they were being watched. And then they made up all this shit. They even claimed, Everton, that they had expenses from the stadium, but the loan was a working capital loan. That was not There was not capital that was going to be capitalized into this infrastructure. And the most basic year one accountant could go, no, that's not right. And of course, a judge and a football finance expert, and I can't remember who the third person was on the panel, were like, no, that's not right. Of course it wasn't right. Anyway, sorry, going off on a rant about Everton, but it was just basically cheating, and they got caught and they got punished. End of story.
But I think this is bad news in the very, very short term for United, because I think this means that on the pitch and in the stadium on Sunday, it's going to be raucous. It's going to be poisonous. I mean, it's the best way to galvanise a football team is to say us against the world, and that's exactly the sort of mentality that Sean Dyche is going to play on now, and try and stoke within that squad. And it's going to be, you're going to get loads of protests from the Everton fans. And I mean, at the best of times, every football club, every football fan thinks that their club is being persecuted unfairly, and you just have to go on Twitter and look at a game after a bad VAR decision, and you say all the decisions are always against us, kind of thing. But then for this type of thing to happen, and then obviously that with the City having 100 discrepancies against their name, and Everton having one, and you've heard all the arguments, obviously. You've seen them all on Twitter, you've read them all in the newspaper. It's going to create this absolutely crazy atmosphere on Sunday, which is going to be, we talk about like new manager bounces. This is like a points deduction bounce, which is going to really give them it's going to really galvanise them. It's going to be, I mean, you see it in like so many different levels of football. When a team actually gets like docked loads of points or docked points, they end up playing so much better than they ever did before. Like Derby, did they get done up to 25 points? And then at one point, it actually looked like they were going to stay up with Rooney. And then Luton got deducted 30 one year and did pretty all right. And Bournemouth survived once getting deducted points and stuff. And I think Everton will end up surviving. And I think on Sunday, it's going to be... Goodison is never an easy place for United to go, because the fans always love playing against United. It's always poisonous, and they're always on our backs. But Sunday's going to be even worse than before because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it does seem to be galvanising the Everton fans. They do feel persecuted. I think most of the arguments are absolutely bogus, but I guess it's not paranoia if they really are out to get you. And in this case, the Premier League were very much out to get Everton, but in my view, rightly so. And I think it's actually quite a light punishment for the completely egregious nature of the cheating, which is what it is. But yes, it may well translate into new stimulus on the pitch. And of course, these players now, although I guess in the modern age they probably think they could get a transfer elsewhere if they go down, they would hope that they would not want that, and this will, or at least Everton fans would hope that they would not want that, these players, and Dyche could use it as an us against them motivating tool. And I think already we've seen this season that they're better than the bottom.
They are.
It's pretty rubbish, to be honest. Luton, Sheffield United, and the other one whose name I'm forgetting right now, who are right at the bottom.
It's one of Bournemouth and
Burnley.
Burnley are also down there.
And Bournemouth are pretty crap too. Yeah, right. So there's plenty of teams that are worse than Everton, and they're probably 10 points better than someone.
Yeah.
So yes, they'll probably survive. There was a lot of talk about comparing Everton to City, and there was a big piece in the Times that was basically saying, hey, it's one rule for the little clubs like Everton and one rule for the bigger clubs. I just see it's exponentially more difficult with City, who've lawyered up from the beginning and are fighting everything, including handing over any evidence, whereas Everton were, as their statement said, open and transparent. Yeah, they did give stuff to the Premier League, because the Premier League said, we don't believe you, show us the homework. And it's just like, Your Honour, we were open and transparent while we committed the robbery. It's not really an excuse. But with City, it's super complicated, because it's not just, we breached 1 3-year cycle in terms of our spending. They did it for a decade, and then they lied about it, and then they used third parties to cover up some of it, and then they lied about that, and then they wouldn't hand over the evidence, even though they said they had. This is why there are 155 charges, basically. It's just incredibly complex.
Yeah, and also, like you say, City have got the best lawyers in the world who are working on this, whereas Everton gave up the ghost and, well, probably can't even afford a lawyer, to be honest. Like, so the Premier League are going against these absolute hot shots in this case as well. So it's not as open and short or easy as simple as the big guy versus the little guy kind of case that the Times are obviously putting forward, or a lot of people have put forward.
Yeah, I think that's too simplistic. Aren't City using Lord Panic, who was the government's lawyer on their Rwanda scheme? Yeah,
because
I think maybe make it nice and rounded. When City get punished, we should just deport them all to Rwanda. There you go.
City had that stupid banner, didn't they, where it said "Panic on the streets of London."
Yeah,
it's just like the only banner I've ever seen for a football lawyer, and kind of sums up their tragic fan base. No offense to any City fans listening.
Really is. I think they should work off 10 points per charge, and they can work it off in any way they like. They could. In fact, someone suggested, when I suggested this on Twitter, that they should start with 1,550 points deducted, and they can just keep working from there. And so, like, at their current rate, it would probably take them like 15 years. So I don't know what 15 relegations looks like somewhere in the Sunday League.
They were playing against us.
It seems
at my level, actually.
So,
yeah.
There you go. And just imagine you coaching your team, tactical genius.
We just play Mourinho.
Schooling
we play
him.
Mourinho ball, so It's the type of football that beats that kind of system. Well, maybe did about 15 years ago.
Yeah, it has on occasion. Yeah. On the pitch on Sunday, isn't it?
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see what Ten Hag does here. Because it's not exactly. I know United are, in theory, top of the form table, 4 wins out of 5, but there hasn't been a good performance in any of that. And so, does Ten Hag stick with the formula, just hoping it's going to magically fix itself? So, McTominay plus Fernandes plus one other in central midfield.
Amrabat, is it going to be? Because Eriksen and Mount are both injured.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. Oh, Eriksen is injured, isn't he? Yeah. Actually, that's the other one. Højlund may or may not be fit.
He's still out.
Yeah. So it looks like, I guess we get Martial up front, or Rashford with Garnacho. We'll see. None of them are in form. Anthony, I guess he'll play there. I mean, he was dropped for the previous game, but if it is going to be a bit raucous and Everton going to be in our faces, Anthony's actually the kind of warrior you want in there. Sometimes he's, as we've said, good defensively, can start fighting in an empty room, all the kind of stuff you'd want in that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, he's up for the battle. He's brave, isn't he? Sometimes that might boil over, and I feel like that might happen on Sunday, especially if he's playing really badly and he's also in bad form. I feel like Petit's got the potential to boil over, but yeah, like you say, he's the kind of perfect fit for this type of game. But you look at the, like you say, the attacking options. I don't know when United have ever had. I mean, even during our bad days, our attacking options, we had a wealth of attacking options. But now, yeah, you're looking around at, well, if it's Martial, Rashford, Anthony, front three, that is not that inspiring considering the form that Rashford's
can't
in.
Buy a goal.
And then you obviously, Garnacho maybe, but Garnacho's not in any form either. So it's all on Bruno Fernandes creating chances again, isn't it?
Yeah, Garnacho wasn't in the Argentina squad for their recent games. They beat Brazil in Brazil. I don't think Anthony was in that squad either, just looking down the list. So Joe Linton managed to get himself sent off, which was quite funny.
That game was crazy as well, because it was basically just awful. It was an awful game after, obviously, the melee and the crowd before the game as well. It was just basically people crunching each other for 90 minutes, and Joel Linton didn't really do that much, and then they're getting sent off. Yeah.
South American qualifiers are absolutely nuts, because they all play each other. It's kind of pointless now because they have so many
7 qualifiers.
I think it's 6 plus 1, isn't it? So almost everyone's going to qualify. So these games shouldn't mean anything, but they clearly do, because everyone kicks the shit out of each other all of the time, and it's really tough because even the poorer quality teams, like some of them play at altitude, go and play in La Paz at 10,000 feet. I don't know if any listeners have managed. First time I ever went to Mexico City, which is at 8,500 feet, I went out for a run, and I don't know, I did 5k, and I thought I was going to die. I was like, what is going on? My body was absolutely no. You're not dead. It's really hard. So, and you can't just immediately adjust.
Like you say, that's what's so great about that qualification, though, because I don't think Bolivia qualified for the World Cup like once or something in their whole history. But even the worst team in the group, pretty much every single time, the away trip there is an absolute nightmare. And then you've even got like Venezuela these days who are quite decent. And like you say, every game's a derby, every game's feisty. So it is the best qualification group in world football, despite, like you say, it's 6+1 this year. It's always, I mean, the timings aren't always great for Europeans, but they're always the best to watch. And especially when you've got England versus Malta to compare it to, European qualifiers can be really drab at times.
One of the big regrets, I never got to see one of the Buenos Aires derbies. I've been there a few times, and the last one we had tickets for it, and was it a Copa semi-final, Libertadores semi-final, where Boca and River fans had a riot in the streets the day before.
I remember that happening for the final as well. I think that was the day of the game, wasn't it? When I think Boca's
right, and then they cancelled it and shifted it to Madrid anyway. We didn't. So. It was a shame, and I was supposed to go to Tigres versus Millonarios in Bogota as well, and I got told on by our local person to HR, and they were like, "No way, you're doing that, Ted." I was like, "What?" I'll blend in with the ultras, no problem.
Oh man, that is looks like the best continent in the world to watch football.
Yeah,
crazy.
One day I'll make some games there, but yes. We ran off track. We were sort of talking about I can't remember where. Euros, England, qualification, United's midfield. No Casemiro, obviously out for a while now, and maybe out permanently, because a lot of talk in the papers at the moment of him and Rafa Varane, although Ten Hag denied it in today's presser that either or both of them might be off in the winter. And to be honest, if even with Varane now not in favour, it's not exactly been great this season. So would you take cash if you were offered it?
I would, and I don't think it's right to believe anything that Ten Hag says about, this guy's going to be part of our plans, because we obviously saw it with Ronaldo where he was, we're not going to get rid of him, and obviously. But I definitely would for both of them. Varane's at his best, he's great, a Rolls-Royce defender, and he's perfect alongside Martinez, but as we knew before we signed him, he's made of glass, and it was always going to be one of those things that, if we get the best out of Varane, he's fantastic, but how often are we going to get the best out of him? And you can't, I don't see the point of having a player like that in the team. In the squad, I just don't see the point, because you're never going to rely on him. He's never going to get into rhythm. He can't be trusted to form a partnership, and especially at centre back, you really need those partnerships. It makes the whole team better. It makes the centre back, your other centre back, better. It makes your goalkeeper better. And when you swap in and chop in and swap in, like we've been doing for basically the whole time since Ferdinand and Vidic, we need to find two centre backs who can stay fit, and Varane isn't that, despite how good he can be. So I'd get rid of him. Casemiro as well is a no-brainer for me. He's not getting any better, and he's been exposed this season. So I mean, if Saudi come calling for both of them, I would bite their hands off right now. But
I'd be more tempted with Casemiro than Varane, just because it's useful to have someone of Varane's quality around, and until they can replace him. Of course, there's unsurprisingly a lot of talk about Jean-Claire Todibo, who is at Nice, and I think I'm right in saying that, and could now, because of the vote in the Premier League, which I voted against, by the way, could now join us on loan, maybe. I'm not sure the Nice fans would be too happy about that.
Yeah, that would be a turn up. I mean, we were linked to Kim, weren't we, in the summer? And at one point, it looked like that was going to definitely happen, and that would have been absolutely beautiful. But not to be.
Yeah, they'll definitely have to think about that. Yeah, Casemiro looks like, I mean, as I think we suspect, he just looks like a financial burden at this point. Huge wages, huge fee. Like, it would, any money would be very good for FFP purposes there. Assuming we're not going to get him back to his best, and I don't think we will, really. He just doesn't look the same player he once was.
I think also, I think it typifies the haphazard nature of United's squad building as well, because we said it when he signed, like we knew he had loads of quality and we knew it would be good, but when you're looking at a kind of a Ten Hag type of player and the system that what we thought Ten Hag was going to implement at United, the type of Ajax type of football, like Casemiro was never going to really fit into that, because he's not a controller. He's a ball winner, and he's a great ball winner at his best. And he was kind of transformational in his mentality and his ability when he first came in, but also for building a squad. And I don't know what we've spoken many times with that. We don't know what United's best system is or what United's system is. But if we want to build a team where we do control the football, like having a player like Casemiro isn't the right player. So if this incompetency that United have had with signing Casemiro can be bailed out by Saudi Arabian money, I would definitely, like I say, I'd bite the hand off and then buy a player who maybe does fit into a system which Ten Hag wants to build. But I mean, I don't know if Ten Hag will be around for too much longer anyway for whatever rebuild is going to take place.
Well, yes, I mean, there's definitely a risk to him with new sort of management coming in, for sure. Like, he could be part of the clearing of house. I'm minded to give him more benefit of the doubt, just given who could, we haven't seen anyone really be successful in the chaos of the Glazer ownership except for Fergie. So, bits of Mourinho, obviously the cup win under Van Gaal. Ollie at times looked like he was turning it around, but it just seems a really hard system to work in with people above him who aren't helping. I don't think. I'm not sure what Murtaugh's football department actually does. If you look at the track record in the transfer market and in terms of contracts, it doesn't look good, does it? So I'm kind of minded to give him some benefit of the doubt. I'm really surprised with Ten Hag just how quickly he just gave up on all the things that were supposed to be about Ten Hag ball, and just with all the injuries just became really super pragmatic, which we always knew he had this kind of element to him. But seeing a United midfield of McTominay, Casemiro and Bruno giving the ball away every 3 seconds, it feels like the total opposite of what we assumed we would get with Ten Hag, and I was just a little surprised he went for that. We'll see this weekend. It would be a real. Obviously, we're going to have McTominay in the side because there aren't any other fit midfielders, basically. But it's just very hard with McTominay and Bruno, and then one other to create the team that he wants.
And you just think about that midfield potentially being McTominay, Amrabat, and Bruno. Say Anthony's playing as well, and Martial and Rashford. The lack of control that you can just think of when you think about that team,
or goals.
And you just think about how end to end this match is going to be, and it's just going to be one on individual brilliance. I think. Well, for either team, it feels like such a flip of the coin who wins. We've got more individual talent, for sure. They've obviously got the home crowd and that poisonous home crowd, which I think it's going to be. So I feel like it is just going to be like a flip of a coin who wins this game, which is ridiculous, really. But that comes from a lack of control and a lack of style, it comes from us relying too much on individual brilliance, which we have done, I think, for maybe the past 18 months, to be honest.
Yeah, and we could do with some of that from Bruno, who's He really needs some goals.
Or Rashford, obviously.
Obviously got one in the last game. Or Rashford, definitely. Yeah, he really needs it. Bruno, by the way, who I knew this, of course, but we all say his name completely wrong. The Premier League put a little clip out of some players saying their own names, and he's more like it's Brun. It sounds more like Brun than Bruno. Miguel Fernandes.
Yeah.
And clearly, I'm not getting that right either. But yeah, we totally.
Yeah, I knew the Portuguese was Fernandes, and like Fred's Brazilian pronunciation or Portuguese pronunciation is Fredji, because when you hear Tim Vickery like pronounce stuff, then you're like, oh wow. But I'm not sure. But if I said Fredji every time, everyone would be like, what are you on about? I don't even know who you're talking about.
Well, it's the right balance between not insulting someone and sounding pretentious. So which is because we probably should say their names correctly, shouldn't we? Yeah. Who's the Derek Ray, who does a lot of the ESPN? He always he makes a point of doing it, but he pulls it off because he's just always
his
done
German
that.
is amazing. The way that he pronounced like Leipzig and he does it for Hungarian players as well. He's popped into my DMs a few times asking like how do you pronounce like Soboslai or Shalai. Some players who play for Hungary, and then you'd hear him on the TV, and you're like, wow, like you've really gone to town on this, and it is super impressive when they do that. And I think the German coverage, to be honest, in general, is usually done by, I don't know if necessarily German speakers, but they do really like you say, go to town on getting it right, which is I guess a good thing. I just don't know if I could pull off calling Bruno Fernandes every time. I don't know if I've got the dexterity in my voice.
Yeah, Bruno, it is then. Yeah. Well, touch wood, something from him this weekend we could really, really, really do with it. I look, 4 games out of 5, yes, great. But we're just like one bad result away from a crisis every week.
Despite being top of the form team.
And yeah. Well, currently 6th, and that's 5 points behind Tottenham in 4th. So, given the disastrous nature of much of this season, it's not bad. It's really not bad, and maybe the wheels are coming off Ange a little bit.
Because he was the next thing. He was the next Pep, wasn't he, at one point, and absolutely loved by everyone. And I mean, in this country, we've got a great tendency to build someone up and then smash them down, and I wonder if that will happen with Ange soon. Maybe not. Maybe they'll recover after this international break, but it is quite funny that we're so close behind them, and also that we're ahead of Eddie Howe's, the beloved Eddie Howe's Newcastle as well.
The beloved Eddie Howe.
He is by certain members of the press.
Sick.
Can't do anything wrong.
He is, yes. And they give his club's owners a free pass.
I mean,
more stuff coming out. By the way, Athletic and Adam Crafton doing a lot of great reporting on this. So obviously we knew the government got involved because he's reported it before, but the detail on them getting involved as well. Yeah. Which is exactly the point. Exactly the point of buying a club like this. It's not just reputation washing. It was the ability to have leverage over foreign governments and buy up institutions, and exactly what
I think also to like boxing at the moment, like I don't know how much of a boxing fan you are or how much of a boxing fan people are who listen to this, but like the way that the boxing world absolutely, like everyone in boxing is now fawning over Saudis because they've been able to match some of the best together, like Usyk and Fury, and then they've created this card which is on December 23rd, which is just full of top talent. And like, oh my god, hearing Eddie Hearn Eddie Hearn's morally bankrupt anyway, isn't he, and Frank Warren and all the punditry just talking about, oh yeah, it's so great that Saudi have finally been able to bring these promoters together and stuff. I'm like, there's not even any, at least in football you get critical analysis. Like, there's not even any critical analysis in boxing, and it's like one of the biggest sports in the country. And it's just, oh God, it's horrible. It's just really, really horrible to watch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there should be that critical analysis. What is that money buying, and who's it coming from, and why do they want to do this? And I think it was it Sporting Business Mag, or maybe one of the human rights orgs had mapped out all of Saudi's sporting interests, and it's like kind of 300 different things, like teams, leagues, sports, TV rights, competitions, one-offs, everything. It's a national strategy to buy influence and power from a country that is sending people to prison for decades for tweeting criticism. Decades, constantly. And has run up, I can't remember, it's a couple of hundred executions this year. So Anyway, I could go off on a rant about that. I know I'm always mindful, because people keep me honest about this one, to not other. But I don't know, there's a hell of a lot of detail about how repressive this regime is. And that is not to say that the UK or the US where I live are not repressive in their different ways either. But as of yet, Rishi Sunak hasn't struck on buying a football club in order to buy his way to electoral victory. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, maybe you could buy one in Rwanda to make them happy about the immigrants that they're going to receive.
God, it's just whole thing is so humans as cattle, right? Just to be shifted around.
Makes me sick.
I'm very glad that Rishi Sunak has not decided to buy Manchester United. I would not trust him to run the club any more than I'd trust the Glazers. Instead, we get this is where we're at in football now, where we're delighted that a Tory voting Brexiteer, non-Dom, with quite a lot of dubious links to human rights abusing petrochemical states, is to be a part owner of United, and that's delightful, because it's slightly better than state ownership and probably more competent than the Glazers.
God. I know we've also got Nigel Farage basically whitewashing his reputation on national TV on I'm a Celebrity Over Here, and I've already seen a lot of people saying, oh, he's actually not that bad, he's actually quite a nice guy. So many eyes rolling.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same strategy in a sense, isn't it, as buying football clubs. Yeah.
And also, like, do you think that when the Tories are finally ousted, I feel like Farage is setting himself up for to become the knight in shining armour, to be the person to take back power for the Conservative right. But hey, that's a big tangent.
It is, yeah. Has Farage ever professed love for football? I noticed in the King's speech, the transcript and the notes that went along with it. So when they announced the football regulator, they described Rishi Sunak as being a big fan of football. Didn't say which team he supported, which is like always a key signal that he's not really a fan of football.
Reminds me of that time where David Cameron forgot which team he supported, when he said, I've always been such a big fan of West Ham, when he was actually a fan of Aston Villa.
I mean, they look kind of the same, don't they?
To be fair, I used to get them
confused
when I was about 3 or 4 years old, so I kind of get it.
Maybe he dressed his pigs up in West
Ham
Ham
shirts.
shirts.
Isn't he? Back with a bang.
Go there. Unbelievable. It'd be like Ollie returning as assistant manager or something, or Louis van Gaal returning as assistant manager. That'd be great. So, I'm having nostalgia for Louis, even though the football is crap. I'm now thinking,
was it so bad?
Character.
They had that great half against Leicester once. Yeah. And we lost the second half, and we ended up losing 5-3. But
wheels fell off the bus. Yeah. All right. Well, good luck, United. Let's we can manage to calm down Goodison Park. It'd be nice, actually. Early goal. Like, let them turn on themselves. Dice ball not set up for coming from behind.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what we need.
First goal, very important.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend.